So what do you think the greatest war weapon ever was?
Greatest war weapon ever. That's difficult. Like, what do you mean? Like the single, like how much damage a single weapon could do, or how efficient the weapon was?
Both. What do you like one for each one?
Oh, okay. Well, the nuclear warhead's obviously the most powerful single weapon ever invented. It's not very practical because if you use it too much, it's gonna create a fallout. But I feel like.
So you're telling me if you use it too much, it'll create a video game?
Yes.
Fair enough. Mm-hmm. I can go along with that.
But yeah. So nukes are just they're the most powerful single weapon ever invented. But I feel like the most efficient weapon ever invented would probably be, well, it'd be a gun, obviously, but like specifics, I'm not sure. I feel like the AK is probably the most efficient weapon ever made.
Just because it's so versatile.
It's so versatile. You can just remake it over and over and every roll.
Just like that meme.
Yeah.
You can have a short AK, long AK,
exactly.
Close-up AK, heavy long range AK,
mm-hmm.
No buttstock AK, mm-hmm. Pistol AK.
Yeah.
All right. So a nuclear warhead and an AK.
Yes.
What else?
I mean,
like what was something that like what do you think was the most like revolutionary weapon?
Musket, definitely.
Really?
Yeah, when it came out, it changed warfare on its head. Like warfare before muskets, where you'd establish, a front line of swordsmen and spearmen. Then behind that, you'd have your archers and the flanks, cavalry, and back you'd have
wait, what?
You'd have cavalry in the flanks. Your soldiers, your infantrymen on the front lines, your archers behind them, and you'd have your artillery in the back. But with muskets, they got rid of the two lines. They merged them into one. So you don't have archers and infantry. You have just infantry.
Why would they get rid of the archers?
Because archers were obsolete with gunpowder.
So they put them out of a job.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think it was like the first guy that made the musket that took the very first shot? Well, like he is just like was in a workshop somewhere and just made this thing. And he's like, all right, who's pulling the trigger?
Well, the first muskets actually were invented, I believe, in the 1600s when medieval warfare was still dominant. And they were god awful. They couldn't penetrate armor. They were so inaccurate. They weren't useful in combat. They were essentially just like put to the side as a gimmick.
But were they just like noise machines?
Pretty much. They were not good at all. But as time progressed and they got better and better, they started to be more and more useful until like in the Conquistador era, they had both muskets and swords and shields being used together. But like after the conquistadors came in and the muskets went from being like a blunderbuss edge,
like
a blunderbuss end to the barrel. Like it was like the muskets back then had like the barrel was straight and ended like a blunderbuss. But
like a horn.
Yeah, and
like what they always depict in the cartoons as like an elephant gun.
Yeah, and they took that and shortened it to a more straight barrel, and it became way more accurate. And after that, pretty much.
Well, because when they first started making them, they probably just loaded them with like what, just whatever.
No, blunderbusses, yeah, but actual muskets, they used musket balls. They always use musket balls.
What did they use like the very first ones? Was it just like rocks?
I think it was just pellets. It was just like little pellets.
Pellets of what?
Just lead.
How did they make them?
I'm just the way you make pellets, I think.
Well, what year is this?
This is like 1600s.
So they didn't have pellets.
Yeah, they know how to make that stuff. In the 1600s, cannons were already around.
Really?
Yeah, cannons were invented in the. I think.
What do you think the first cannon shot was like?
Cannon shot.
Like the first guy that was like he made this cannon and he was like, all right, hear me out.
The Ottomans were the first ones to make cannons, I believe.
The who?
Ottomans.
Who's that?
The Ottomans in the Middle East. You know where Turkey is?
Yeah.
That was once the Ottoman Empire.
No.
And the Ottomans were this giant empire, the most powerful empire of their time. And they had the gunpowder from Asia. And they decided, you know what, let's take a giant brass barrel. We just put gunpowder at the bottom of it. We
just take gun, make it big.
Yes, that's how it sounds. and you just throw a giant stone ball because they were stone. The first cannonballs were stone, I believe, and they used it to siege places down. And once the Europeans saw that they were using cannons, they were like, "Oh my god, that thing tore down that wall in like an hour." And they were like, "Oh my god, we gotta get our hands on this." And the Europeans took it and ran with it and made it like super, just better in every way.
But I don't understand how cannons became like popular.
Because mainly their siege ability. They started out just being siege weapons.
Because like they're so heavy, right?
Yes.
They're like thousands of pounds.
You'd have to assemble it on the site of the siege.
And how would that work? Like if you're in this place, like in this certain location to go to war, okay, but you have to like go set up to get ready for war. How does your enemy not just take you out as you're setting up for war?
You'd have them encircled in a siege. Like you'd have them in a siege in a fortress or a city, and you'd completely surround them with their military and cut off all the choke points. So if they try to come out at you, you just gun them down. And then you'd set up you'd bring in through your supply train. You'd bring in the cannon piece itself, and then you'd bring in the thing it's going to sit on, like the frame, and you bring in the ammunition and the powder. And
so you'd have to make like a physical circle with people.
Yes, the army you'd make a circle. If there was choke points, you set up points. You set up soldiers in fortified positions, like you'd dig trenches and build some stakes and that sort of thing. And you'd have your men lined up looking down at choke points. So if they came at you, you just massacre them.
How did they determine like where the battle zone was?
Well, mainly it was, in large swaths of forests and stuff, there'd be a clearing. It'd be a very well-known clearing. And one side would march to that clearing and intercept an enemy army. So an army would, like, they didn't intel that this army is on its way here. There's a clearing here. So we intercept them at the clearing and kill them. That's how battle happened.
Oh, so there was like everybody's like in the woods and there's just like an opening and they're just like, all right, the opening is where we're going to fight.
Yeah. Like a good ground is where you'd fight.
And how do you organize this?
Just how you do it.
Like, what do you like? Because you can't just have like two armies in the woods just like hanging out. And then one day they're just like, hey, we're going to fight.
No, one army intercepts the other. One army is unawares. And the other
so they're army, like, so the army is like already going through this area.
Yes.
And then they just happen to cross paths and they're just like, hey, we're going to fight.
Or there'd be an army that would take a defensive position in a strategically important location and they'd force a fight. Like at Waterloo, what happened was the British commander Wellington took up a defensive position on a hill, and the hill just happened to be in the middle of a wide road network, and you couldn't go around this hill without taking heavy casualties. So he forced Napoleon to attack him on the hill, because if Napoleon tried to go around,
higher ground.
Yeah, he had the high ground.
I mean, that's smart. You know what I mean? Because you always want the high ground.
Yeah, and a lot of people think oh, why didn't they just go around this fort? Like they built a fort in this area. Why didn't they just go around it? Well, to go around it, you'd have to go. Usually, you'd either have to go around difficult terrain, which would cause casualties because it's attrition, or you'd have to
nutrition.
Yeah, like
what are they going like hundreds of miles?
Well, if you have to go through rough terrain, like if you try to march an army through like a really dense patch of woods, it's going to slow you down like you wouldn't believe, and people are going to take disease is going to be rampant, and your supply wheels are going to trains are going to get stuck. You're going to be slowed down by so much, and you're going to lose.
There's probably always going to be like those idiots that get hurt on the way. And they're like, how did you do this?
Well, mainly it's just disease. Like disease killed more than anything else back in the day.
Really? Mm-hmm. And the wars?
The Civil War. I believe the casualty count was well over 600,000, I believe. And I think it's like 500,000, 400,000 of those casualties were to disease, not fighting.
Really?
Yeah.
Because on the very first time that you were on the podcast, you brought up that they would stick like musket balls inside of cows.
Yes.
And then like shoot them at people?
Yeah, because you'd have disease ones on it and then you'd get hit and you get sick.
So I was thinking about that. If you put a musket ball into a cow and then got diseases on it or whatever, then put it in a gun and shoot it, wouldn't the heat of the gun sanitize the musket ball?
No.
Why not?
It just wouldn't. Like it wouldn't be enough to completely cleanse the disease.
You sure?
Yeah, the bacteria on it would still survive.
through a blast like that?
Maybe not on the back side of the bullet, but on the front side, yeah.
I think I'm going to try this out.
Yeah, you have your friend Jim come over.
I'll find somebody with a cow and see if I can, or I'll find someone that already has a dead cow.
Yeah.
See if I can put a musket ball in it, and then I'll just find someone, give them $20, and see if they'll let me shoot them with a musket ball, and we'll see if they get a disease.
Yeah. That's simple.
Yeah. I mean, why can't you just recreate it?
Exactly.
I'm sure YouTube would absolutely love that video.
Oh, definitely.